The desert stretched endless under the weight of a fading sun, its horizon painted with smears of orange and violet that seemed to burn into the boy's tired eyes, and though he had walked this land for as long as his memory reached, the sight never lost its cruel vastness, reminding him of how small he truly was. He was a homeless child, no more than 13, skin browned and cracked from dust and wind, bones sharp beneath ragged skin, his only possession worth naming a gray donkey he had raised from a foal, a beast he called Cole because its coat, once dark as midnight, had faded into the ash-colored hide of hard years, and together they wandered between dry riverbeds and abandoned camps, searching always for scraps of food or a kind stranger's mercy, for the boy had no family, no place to lay claim as home, only a patched canvas tent that sagged in the winds like a weary traveler who had been too long under the sun. His days followed a rhythm of hunger and silence. Waking to the sound of Cole pawing at the earth in search of weeds, drinking from the tin cup that carried more dents than shine, scavenging from old campfires for bits of charred bread, then walking to the nearby settlement to beg for leftovers at the back doors of saloons or trading posts where men with dust on their boots and liquor on their breath sometimes tossed scraps his way without meeting his eyes. Despite the cruelty of want, he never cursed the world aloud. His silence was his armor, his endurance his only strength, and Cole was his one companion, listening with patient ears whenever the boy whispered stories to the night sky, tales of rivers that never ran dry and villages that welcomed children with warm bread and gentle voices. That night, as twilight bled into the ridges of sandstone and the first stars cracked open above, the boy noticed a shadow moving unsteadily along the horizon, not the sure stride of a rider or the long figure of a coyote, but the swaying, faltering gait of someone too tired to stand. He narrowed his eyes, brushing dust from his lashes, and waited until the figure drew close enough for the moon to catch its outline. It was another boy, perhaps older by a year, though his hair hung long and black against his shoulders, his skin dark with the hue of the Apache, his steps stumbling as if each one dragged him closer to collapse. The boy's first instinct was caution, for he knew well how tribes and settlers both treated outsiders, and he was neither tribe nor settler, just a lost soul wandering. But when the stranger staggered and fell to his knees, the homeless boy's heart overruled his caution, and he hurried forward, kneeling in the sand. The Apache boy's lips were cracked white, his breath shallow, and when the homeless child lifted his head, he saw eyes fierce yet dimming from thirst, eyes that had once known fire but were now clouded by exhaustion. Without hesitation, the boy reached for his tin cup, the one he treasured like gold, and poured the last drops of water he had collected from a brackish pool that morning, cradling the Apache's hands so the liquid did not spill. The stranger drank greedily, as if the drops were life itself, and when the cup was empty, he looked up with something like disbelief etched across his hollow face. The boy did not speak, for he rarely wasted words, but he broke the stale crust of bread he had saved from earlier, pressing half into the Apache's hands, chewing the other slowly to soften the dryness in his mouth. They ate together under the rising moon, two wanderers bound by hunger, and though no words passed between them, something deeper than language stirred in the quiet. Cole brayed softly nearby, his ears twitching, and the homeless boy stroked his rough mane, his chest tightening with a decision he did not fully understand but knew he must make. The Apache would never survive the desert on foot, not in his weakened state. He needed strength, a companion, a way home, and the only thing the boy had to give was Cole. His throat tightened as he untied the rope from the worn wooden peg that served as his anchor, walking the donkey toward the Apache, who watched with bewildered eyes. The boy placed the reins into the stranger's hands and said in a voice rough from disuse, "Take him. He'll carry you home. I'll walk." The Apache shook his head weakly, his pride refusing, his culture screaming against such a gift, for among his people, no one gave away their beast of burden lightly, but the boy only nodded once, his face unreadable, his resolve unshaken. Cole nuzzled against his chest as if sensing the farewell, and the boy pressed his cheek against the warm hide, whispering a silent thanks for years of companionship, then stepped back, letting the Apache mount. For a long moment, the two boys locked eyes, and though neither spoke further, a bond of respect passed between them, silent recognition of sacrifice, of trust, of a gift that meant more than survival. The Apache boy straightened in the saddle, his hands trembling around the reins, and with a final nod, he urged Cole forward, the donkey plodding steadily into the desert night, carrying the stranger back toward whatever home awaited him. The homeless boy stood alone in the sand, his feet bare, his tent sagging behind him, watching until Cole's gray shape melted into the shadows. He felt the ache of loss sink deep into his chest, sharper than hunger, heavier than the desert winds, but within it burned a strange lightness, a warmth that whispered he had done right. He had nothing left but himself, and yet he felt richer for the giving. That night, he lay inside his ragged tent, the wind howling like ghosts outside, his body trembling from cold and emptiness, yet his heart strangely steady, and as he closed his eyes, he whispered to the stars, "He'll get home. That's enough." Little did he know that in the silence of the desert, the act had been witnessed not just by the Apache who rode away but by the very spirit of the West itself, and by dawn, his life would no longer belong only to loneliness.